Today, on Be Something Wonderful, know the unreality of 3D conditions. I am your host, Tom Kieran, and this is the Be Something Wonderful studio of higher consciousness, where we help you level up and become the best version of yourself. Creators, welcome back. I heard from a client that I had spoken to in July. And at the time, what he was really wanting to talk about was he was struggling with sales. I think he was selling electronics or electronic products. And he was really struggling with rejections from these clients. And he goes, every time I feel that, I just feel that it has a lot to do with my self-concept, that I don't feel good about myself. He goes, so he goes, but Tom, I've been working on my self-concept and my worthiness for years. And you know, I do affirmations, and sometimes I'm feeling really good, and then other times I'm not. And he goes, it feels like I've hit a wall. So I want to talk about this because something else I also heard from another client yesterday or the day before on something similar. Although she was talking about a coaching business or a consulting business that she has. And she was feeling similar. Like that when someone didn't want to sign up with her, or someone didn't want to engage her, she felt it as a rejection. She felt that it was her self-concept. And in fact, she said that I think now, at least I know it has nothing to do with, there's nothing wrong with my desire. This is what she said. And I just want to say, guys, I have a couple things to say here. One, there's nothing ever wrong with your desire. And normally there's nothing even wrong with your processes or your affirming. It's really none of that. It's the idea that you're trying to fix the 3D you. Fix something that really isn't broken. Right? Remember, your 3D you is here to experience duality. And yes, self-concept's important, but what's the most important self-concept that we can talk about? Your identification with your I am, with your inner being, with your higher self, yourself as an aspect of God. That's where you want to point your attention. Not trying to then just leave the 3D ego to sulk in its own disbelief. Sulk in its own feeling of unworthiness. It will come along. It will catch up. It will come out of it, right? When you start focusing on going within, focusing on your desired end, because every time you start thinking about self-concept, and just like my other client who spent 2 years working on it, and still doesn't, his whole lifetime still doesn't feels like it goes back and forth, it's because you're focused in the wrong direction. You want to go up and within to that higher you. That's where it's never shaky, right? Just leave that 3D you and those changing conditions of 3D and the changing finicky ego of the 3D to sulk in its own negativity and its own limitations, right? And then you focus on your desired end. Focus on rising in consciousness and recognizing that I am in you, that God in you. This is the conversation that I had with that client who was selling electronics. He reached out to tell me that August is turning out to be one of his best months of the year. So he's starting to recognize, right? He's just saying, Tom, I'm just leaving those thoughts there. I'm just leaving that thought that if someone turns it down, it's not about me. I'm starting not to identify that, and I'm identifying more with that greater me. And that's what we're talking about. That's what I want to talk about today. So don't deny 3D reality, right? It's not about denying it, fixing it, repairing it, or anything like that, right? 3D reality is just a reflection of your inner state, right? And it's a reflection of you, what you're thinking, feeling, and believing in that moment of now. And it's always changing. So don't resist it, don't reject it, and don't complain about it. Simply be indifferent. Remember, you are source. You are its source. And remember, when you're looking at 3D reality, you're always looking at the past. You're always looking at your state of being, who you were, and not who you are now, right? And once you start identifying with that larger you, that God in you, then even when you have those thoughts, those lower thoughts, those negative thoughts, you can just leave them. Leave them to dwell by themselves. Leave that 3D ego to dwell in the feeling of rejection. And then point towards your I am. Point to that higher state within you, that inner being, right? Simply be indifferent. Don't give it, in other words, don't give it a second thought. Right? When you think, if you ask somebody out and they turn you down, or there's some sort of rejection in the business, don't give it a second thought. Move within and know it's not about you. Right? That you don't have to identify with that 3D condition or the feelings and thoughts that go along with it. Right? What you give time, space, and attention to is your reality and your total life experience right now. What you're thinking, feeling, believing, assuming, what you're giving your time, space, and attention to becomes your reality and life experience right now, right? So you don't ever have to dwell on 3D reality. What you retrieve your time, space, and attention from returns to the field of infinite possibilities. It returns to the unseen. When you retrieve your attention, and stop giving these 3D conditions, these 3D thoughts, these lower feelings, if you stop giving them time, space, and attention, they return to the field of infinite possibilities. Yes, you can recognize the thought, you can recognize the feeling, and then just leave it there. Retrieve your energy from it, your attention, right? This is what we're talking about. Remember, the 3D world has nothing to offer or to give you. You're always looking in the mirror, the dual mirror, right? It only reflects what you're offering or giving yourself within. So if you believe that you have to fix your self-concept, you create a reality of having to fix your self-concept. That's why it feels like a continuing journey. That's why a lot of you write me, I've spent 20 years or 30 years or 5 years or 2 years on this journey of creating a higher self-concept, of recognizing my worthiness. When you can just move to it, it's a choice in the now moment. And it's not that you make the choice once, you're making it in every now moment. Do you hear this? It's not about one and done. It's about making it in every moment. Choosing the higher you, choosing the God within you, right? Stop holding on to and identifying with the contents of 3D conditions in temporary thoughts, feelings, assumptions, and beliefs, and identify with the context of who you really are, the I am awareness. We get caught up in the contents of 3D reality, in the contents of our thoughts and our assumptions. They're old assumptions, they're old beliefs. We start feeling them, and we have thoughts from those. We start feeling those thoughts. Then we start to try to resolve them by working on ourselves, right? And then all of that time, our focus is not where? It's not on our desired end. It's not on what we really want. And we're not focused within on that I am, on that God within, and focusing on the desired reality. Where total focus is on 3D conditions that are temporary and fleeting. Do you see this? And you're trying to fix what's going to dissolve when you remove your attention from it. Wow, that's big. When you have found the cause, this is what Neville Goddard says, when you have found the cause of the phenomena of life, let every other belief go. Let every other belief go. When you have found the cause of the phenomena of life, your imagination, your I am awareness, that God within you, when you have found that, you can let every other belief go. The belief that you have to fix yourself, improve yourself, find worthiness. Remember, it's not about being more worthy. It's about recognizing the fundamental truth of your innate worthiness. The fundamental truth of your self. The bigger self, the higher you, the God within you. That's the fundamental truth of who you are. That's who you really are, right? You have found the cause of the phenomena of life. Let every other belief go. When you have found that cause, your imagination, that I am awareness, that God within you, you let every other belief go. So powerful today. So identify so deeply with the context of that greater reality, that I am awareness, in greater state of fulfillment, that becomes your dwelling place or what's real to you. Do you see this? Where even as we feel like we're chasing fulfillment, right? We're chasing the wish fulfilled. You're saying to me, sometimes I'm feeling like I'm in my state of wish fulfilled, and then something comes up, like someone turns me down or I get a rejection, and then all of a sudden I don't feel fulfilled anymore. I'm not in my state of fulfillment. Guys, we're not talking about the temporary state of wish fulfilled. We're talking about fulfillment. That's who you are, right? When you're in this state, then you can move to whatever, you can recognize whatever part of that fulfillment that you want, right? Whatever wish you want to recognize is already fulfilled, you can. When you recognize that greater fulfillment, that becomes your dwelling place. That's the real you. What's real is fulfillment, the screen of consciousness on which the temporary images, perceptions, thoughts, feelings, and assumptions of 3D reality are projected. All of this, you're spending all your time messing with these images, perceptions, thoughts, and feelings, and assumptions of yourself in 3D reality, and they're just projections. They're shadows. So you're trying to fix the self-concept of a shadow. Do you see this? You're messing with the shadow. You're trying to change the projection that's on the screen. You want to go change the movie. Pick a new reality, pick a new film role. In fact, pick a new identity. That's how you change the concept of yourself. It's not trying to change the 3D you. It's identifying with that larger you, right? Change the film role versus battling in vain against the projection on the screen, right? Pick a new movie, pick a new film role, a new identity as that greater you, as who you desire to be. Wow, that's big. So, instead of waiting on fulfillment and manifestations in 3D reality, immerse yourself in gratitude and appreciation as source, as the context, as I am. Do you see that? Do you feel that? Immerse yourself. Don't wait on fulfillment. Move to fulfillment. Move to it. Immerse yourself in the gratitude and appreciation as knowing yourself as I am. Every time you say I am, you know you're I am. You know your source. Right? Immerse yourself in that, in your desired imagined end. Right? What do you want to be? Immerse yourself in that. You walk completely suspended. This is what Neville Goddard says. You walk completely suspended above appearances, and you will become what you desire. You walk completely suspended above appearances, and you will become what you desire. Completely suspended. How do you do that? By identifying with that larger, higher you, that dimensionally larger reality. That I am within you, right? That already knows fulfillment, right? And then you can intend or imagine a specific desire within that and move to it. Do you see that? Otherwise, your focus is on trying to fix yourself or fix those feelings or fix those thoughts. And it takes you completely off the focus of who you really are. Wow. Make your desire so big to know yourself as source that only alignment with I am in ultimate reality can fulfill it. Hear this. This is huge. Make your desire so big to know yourself as source that only alignment with I am, with source, with ultimate reality can fulfill it. Then everything else will be added on to you. Do you see this? Sometimes we get focused on these narrow desires, right? And forgetting who we really are. Make it so big to include everything, to include yourself as source, that only alignment with source, only alignment with I am, only alignment with ultimate reality can fulfill it. Then everything else you ever wanted will be added to you, right? Look, that's what Scripture meant by seek the kingdom of God first, and everything else will be added to you. So big. So, when you assume you're already that which you desire to be, there's no longer the battle of the wills, right? 3D will versus God's will, right? Remember, your will, that I am awareness, that inner being, that's the will for everything for you. Remember, it's God's good pleasure. It's the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. God is giving you the kingdom, but you've got to be receptive to it. You've got to allow it. Right? But you're fighting with your 3D will. You're trying to will it. 3D versus God's will. It's God's will to give you everything and already has. right? You win. This is what Neville Goddard says. You win by assumption, which you can never win or will, in other words, by force. I love this. You win by assumption what you can never win by force. In other words, will by force. It's God's will, right? This is what, when Jesus was in the Garden of Gethsemane, yet not my will, but yours be done, right? When he was really feeling, this was the night before his crucifixion, when he went deep in the garden, right? And was praying and was feeling the battle between wills, the battle between the 3D doubt and limitations and God's will, that higher will. That's why he said, yet not my will, but yours be done, right? In the law of assumption, your consciousness of being is the Father's will. In the law of assumption, your consciousness of being is the Father's will. Your consciousness of being is the Father's will. Your consciousness of your I amness, of who you really are, is the Father's will. That's so big. So Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, he took with him Peter and James and John and began to be very distressed. Hear this. Now, the Gethsemane, that name represents oil or wine press. In other words, it's to extract the finer essence of good. It's to extract the wanted out of the unwanted. Let the unwanted fall away. Do you see this? That's what that represents, oil press or wine press, where it extracts the finer essence of who you are, right? And leaves the unwanted to fall away, or the old reality to fall away. That's what that represents. And when he went within, it says he went deeper within the garden with Peter, James, and John. Peter represents faith. James represents wisdom. John represents love. When it says he went within his imagination. He went within to feel that I amness, right? This is the battle of the wills. 3D conditions, thoughts, and feelings. This is when Jesus said, my soul is deeply grieved to the point of death. Hear this. Right? That's the battle within between the 3D will and God's will, or that higher consciousness. As you rise and lose, as the old consciousness, right, your old state falls away and the good rises. Right? It's pressed out. The old reality is pressed out. The old unwanted reality is pressed out as you rise in consciousness. The lower state of consciousness is pressed out as you rise in consciousness. My soul is deeply grieved to the point of death. The 3D will, the world, right, is at the point of death. He's going to lose. This is Jesus losing the 3D consciousness, losing the 3D will, letting that go. The struggle in consciousness as the truth I am is revealed and realized. That higher state of consciousness now rises up, right? And what falls away? That old state of consciousness. That's why they call it the oil or wine press, or Gethsemane. That's what Gethsemane represents, right? The old unwanted reality falls away. Remember, he went in with faith, with wisdom, with love, right? Those are the disciples or the disciplines of mind that are within. You're with faith, you're with wisdom, you're with love, so you can rise in consciousness, right? And leave that old unwanted reality to fall away. That's so big. So the story shows Jesus, I am, knowing the unreality of 3D thoughts, feelings, and conditions, and ultimate reality of imagination. Jesus knew the unreality of that 3D, those 3D conditions, those 3D thoughts, that doubt, that lack, that fear. He knew that they were not reality, that ultimate reality, imagination, or God or spirit, is what rises up, is what counts, and that old falls away, right? Allowing the old state, the 3D ego and conditions, to die or fall away, and allowing the growing state of I am awareness, or the kingdom, to rise within. Very powerful. Do you see that? That's a big story, right? That greater fulfillment, your imagination, your I am, is all that is. Remember, nothing you perceive is outside of you. Otherwise, you wouldn't perceive it. It's all within you. So why are you to be worried about what someone says or does, or what the 3D conditions? That's all coming from you, right? And so you don't have to battle with any of that. You just need to recognize that is within you, and it's within you to let that old fall away, to let that old reality to vanish as you rise in consciousness to what you desire. right? That I amness. So remember, nothing you perceive is outside of you, otherwise you wouldn't perceive it. Go within, embody, identify with, and become one with your I am in your desired end. And the old conditions will fall away. That is how to know the unreality of 3D conditions. I am your host, Tom Caron, and this is the Be Something Wonderful studio of higher consciousness, where we help you level up and become the best version of yourself. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification button, like and share our videos. That's how we get our message out. You can follow us on Facebook at Be Something Wonderful. We have a group called the Be Something Wonderful Ambassadors at facebook.com/groups/Be Something Wonderful. It's an open group. You're all welcome to join. This is where you can share insight and guidance and ask for insight and guidance from others. Also share manifesting stories. It's a great group. You can also join us on Instagram and Twitter at Tom Caron, or just go to our website anytime for all that information and more on coaching and so forth at tomcaron.com and besomethingwonderful.com. Creators, with great love and great light and infinite gratitude, see you soon.